He was just visiting his rich girlfriend's house for the first time, but he didn't expect his aunts and uncles to be all high-tech. They can be attached to any piece of electronic equipment. They just couldn't physically communicate like normal people. Not used to it, Daniel was a bit overwhelmed, but his aunts and uncles were very welcoming. They were also very happy with their future son-in-law. To ease the awkwardness of their first meeting, they looked at photos of Lisa as a child. Just when the mood was right, Lisa suddenly received a call from her company. The uncle took the opportunity to ask Daniel about his profession. Daniel claimed to be a network engineer, but the uncle said he had just done a search. He didn't find any information about Daniel. Daniel explained that he had recently changed companies. His identity hadn't been uploaded to the internet yet. The uncle was skeptical. Just as he was about to ask more questions, Daniel dropped his coffee on the floor in a moment of stress. His aunt rushed over to clean it up. She reassured Daniel not to be too nervous. The couple then made a show of affection. This was a bit embarrassing for Daniel. Then Lisa came over and said she had to go back to the office, and asked Daniel to wait at home for her return, so as not to make her son-in-law too nervous. The aunt decided to cook a special dish herself. The uncle invited Daniel to see the house. It was full of antiques from the last century. The uncle told Daniel he wanted to change the program, but he needed a network engineer to do some coding. That's what Daniel does for a living. He wouldn't have to hire anyone else to help him. Daniel panicked. He found an excuse to hide in the bathroom. Then he called his best friend. He then called his best friend, who accused him of lying. He was a footballer. He had to say he was a network engineer. Daniel explained that if he told the truth, maybe his girlfriend would break up with him right away. There was no point in talking about it now. He wants his best friend to help him find a way out. His best friend says he's just a digital clothing designer. He doesn't know anything about repairing networks. He told Daniel to find his own way. Then he hung up the phone. Daniel had no choice but to do what he had to do. The uncle said that the two machines in front of him were their mainframes. It was up to Daniel to handle the rest. Daniel nodded his head and said no problem. Then his father turned off the internet. Daniel hurriedly took out his phone and searched for a code tutorial. The ads at the beginning made him a little impatient. He managed to get to the tutorial, but then he had to pay to unlock it at a crucial moment. It was going to cost him a year's worth of savings. He was furious. He kicked his uncle straight in the face. Realizing that something was wrong, he wiped it off again. There was no other way out of the situation. He had no choice but to continue to operate, checking and fighting at the same time. He did manage to reboot the mainframe. The nervous man finally relaxed. He thought he would be praised by his uncle, but then his aunt was infected with a virus. This caused him to panic. He didn't know how to remedy the situation. His uncle told him to go to the ground floor and cut off the router. He didn't know how to turn it off, so he just smashed it. His uncle then reconnected the network.